Now let's bring in our panel to discuss the political ramifications of these tariffs. Tammy Bruce, Fox News political contributor and Washington Times columnist. Ford O'Connell, Civic Forum PAC chairman. Ken Blackwell, former Trump transition team advisor. And Mark Lotter, former special assistant to President Trump. Ken, let me start with you. You know the heartland very well. Ohio, Pennsylvania area, what seems to be the epicenter of this, particularly from a political point of view.
Well, look, the growth is the president's best weapon in the political arena because that growth has expanded the economy, increased work employment opportunities, and lifted family incomes. And so from the Family Research Council to the Club of Growth, we understand that nothing should jeopardize that sustained economic growth and those benefits to working families.
So when you say that, are you saying that tariffs would indeed do that?
Well, you can't take a meat cleaver approach to the tariffs. So I'm anxious to see if, in fact, he has structured this so that he goes after specific bad actors. Because if, in fact, he does it with a meat cleaver approach, I think that's going to be problematic for economic expansion, and it will eat away, along with gas price volatility, at those benefits that working families have realized. You know, whether it comes in a $1,000 package or a $2,000 package, all of those things count. We can't overreach with tariffs.
Well, here's the thing, though, Ford. It seems like before this meat cleaver option was available, or at least anyone talked about it, we've taken all kinds of other steps. We've gone to the World Trade Organization. We've issued countervailing duties. We've expressed upset. We've been upset. Every administration's been upset. And what we've seen is once over and over again, not only Canada thumbing their nose at us, but all these other countries that allow China, right, I'm sorry, not Canada, but China thumbing their nose at us, but other countries that allow China to also use their system to not only dump cheap steel and aluminum, but other products on us as well.
Well, Charles, look, you're absolutely right. Look, I'm not a protectionist, but I don't think we can keep running the same playbook over and over and hoping for a different result. We've got to put our toes in the water and figure out what works. And from a political perspective, I see this as something that could actually benefit Republicans in the 2018 midterms, particularly in the industrial Midwest, where we're playing defense in terms of trying to hold the House and where unions are strong. And we're going to get our first test of this theory in Pennsylvania 18 special election next Tuesday, where there are 86,000 union households. And if it moves it from the Democrat Connor Lamb to the Republican Rick Saccone, guess what? We might actually have a political winner on our hands.
You know, Tammy, I'm saying that the economic nationalism is back. If for a moment it felt like it wasn't, when Steve Bannon was banished from the White House, Peter Navarro was demoted. President Trump was publicly chiding Wilbur Ross. It feels like it's back, and this is indeed what got him, what propelled President Trump into the White House in the first place.
Yeah, a lot of the coverage makes it appear as though the people in the White House, maybe like Mr. Cohn, were controlling the president or were his voice, as though he was an empty package. The fact is, he was elected president. He has an idea of how he wants to move forward. But let's remember as well, this rhetoric that we're hearing is part and parcel of the beginning of a negotiation with the world. And this is like when he was talking about that NATO members weren't paying enough for their own defense, and then they started paying enough. We really haven't asked the world to do their fair share. Plus, we have the genuinely bad actor of China in this framework. And so the president's discussion of this in the public realm is a message to the world internationally that things are going to change. But at the same time, when it comes to him, we're recognizing now that whatever that proclamation is tomorrow could be very specific, eliminating China and Mexico if the president feels good about the NAFTA negotiations.
Mark, to that point, NAFTA negotiations, this morning we got the latest on our trade deficit. Our trade deficit with Canada increased 65% month over month. Our trade deficit with China is at the highest level it's been in years. In fact, overall, we're at the highest point, the worst point you can actually say, since 2008. Certainly, this is a part of a larger discussion that many Americans feel long overdue.
Absolutely. And this is the reason why the president was elected in the first place, because he said he was going to stand up for American jobs. And it's a false choice to say that we have to stand for American jobs or our allies. This president is going to find a way to do both. And when you take a look, free trade in many cases is just misguided. It's not misguided, it's mislabeled. We can't ship a car from the United States to Europe without facing a 10% tariff and a value-added tax. It's 25% going to China, yet we hardly charge anything, I think 2.5% for a car coming into our country from either of those two areas. So it's not fair to begin with. The president has identified it, he's calling it out, and he's telling Americans and American workers, I'm standing with you. Right. That's why we're taking these actions.
And Ken, that's what I want to understand is it's, you know, the economic ramifications, particularly near term. I think people understand probably there would be some pain, but in January, the Commerce Department had to enact or go for countervailing duties against several Indian and Chinese companies that were being subsidized on stainless steel flangers up to 250%. I mean, these companies are just taking market share from American companies, and at some point, all the good times are going to go away when there's no American competitors and prices go up. People in the heartland get that. Why don't the elites get it?
I don't know, but Charles, let me just say, this is a kabuki dance, and Tammy is absolutely right. This is the beginning of a face-off with some of the bad actors across the globe. At the end of the day, we don't want any decision to be overtaken, to overtake the benefits of expanded economic growth. And when we start talking about an increase in the steel in the pipeline and what that might be, what that might mean to more workers that will benefit from the tariff, then you start to say, all right, let's see where it's balanced out. And let me just say one other thing. The president is also dancing with the leadership in China. He knows that China has a benefit to us in our handling of North Korea. Sure. How he does this is going to be very, very interesting to watch. I have faith in him because he is a master negotiator, but I don't want people to think that this president is going to go hell-bent on some policy that, in fact, will erode his benefits.
He might go hell-bent because I think he's playing the long game. China plays the long game. We can't play the short game and be so afraid of rocking the boat while we lose jobs and prestige around the world year after year.